Hello and welcome to UzReport World News, and my name is Bahram Ghafarov. The founder of Korzinka.uz, one of the largest retail chains in Uzbekistan, Zafar Hashimov, has spoken about problems that he says hinder the development of capital markets in Uzbekistan. He made his remarks as he addressed a conference entitled "The Role of the Financial Market in Stimulating Economic Growth, Legal and Institutional Aspects" on March 18.
Limited liability companies in Uzbekistan have no legal right to issue shares. It is difficult for investors to work in a non-transparent, unclear legal environment. It is difficult for them to make decisions, especially if we're talking about medium-sized and small enterprises. Transaction costs and legal risks for foreign investors to make direct investments are quite a difficult task. Nevertheless, allowing limited liability companies issuing corporate bonds was a positive step, Hashimov said. Speaking about his own experience of running such a large-scale business, he added that it was necessary to create a parent company in Singapore and implement everything through it in order to structure the transaction with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Hashimov proposed to allow enterprises that attract foreign investment to use international law, for example, English law. This would facilitate the understanding and direct entry of foreign investors into the capital of the enterprise in Uzbekistan. He noted that it would be useful if the government allows an LLC to issue shares, a practice widely used in other countries. It's more transparent when you just hand over the shares to the investor, rather than forcing him to read a 16-page contract that says somewhere that they are shareholders. Hashimov also told how his company's supervisory board was created. In Uzbekistan, only independent members should be elected to the supervisory board. Because of this, I, as a CEO of Korzinka.uz, I had to resign from the position of general director and become chairman of the supervisory board. He noted that transaction costs of raising investments are very high, and if in the case of Korzinka.uz, due to the amount of the transaction, they were even more or less acceptable than in the case of an investment worth 5 to 10 million US dollars. They would simply become impossible. And there are a lot of such cases. These are cases from real experience. These are the challenges that we had to face when we attracted investors, Hashimov said. The large concentration of state banks is a big issue. Since the underwriters of most of the bonds are state-owned banks, their massive presence would rather be a barrier, since the use of public money in these processes would be a great risk for them. It may even lead to corruption. Consequently, the liberalization of the banking sector will make the corporate bond instrument more effective for the LLC, he concluded. The EBRD in 2019 said it was investing up to 40 million US dollars FDI in the equity capital of Anglisi Food LLC, a supermarket chain operator of Korzinka.uz in Uzbekistan. The investment was supposed to support a program to expand the chain from 50 to 140 supermarkets by 2025, as well as to improve operational efficiency and corporate governance standards in line with international standards.
Uzbekistan will start selling highly monopolized products, including oil, gas condensate, silver, ethanol and cement in the domestic commodity exchange market to promote the country's market economy, a presidential decree said on March 18.
According to the document, the companies and enterprises that produce polyvinyl chloride and formalin, silver, consumer and technical ethyl alcohol and hold 50% or more of the state shares in authorized capital will start selling their products as a local commodity exchange starting June 15. Earlier this month, First Deputy Prime Minister Achilbay Ramatov proposed allowing direct purchase of cement and metal from manufacturers, and these products are expected to see a high demand amid large-scale construction work underway in the country. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev said it was necessary to carefully study this proposal and urged the creation of transparent system. In order to prevent artificially inflated prices on the domestic market, the Anti-Monopoly Committee has the authority to set a limit on products, as well as to make mandatory orders to organizations, regardless of their organizational and legal form, on the sale of highly liquid goods exclusively through commodity exchange.
Uzbekistan Update is a daily record for coronavirus cases since the beginning of the year. Some 124 cases of COVID-19 were registered in the country on March 18. 98 patients have recovered. According to the Health Ministry, most of the cases were registered in the city of Tashkent and the Tashkent region. As of March 18, the number of citizens infected with coronavirus in the country stood at 81,095. Uzbekistan's anti-coronavirus staff member Nurmat Atabekov said that the COVID-19 cases have surged among children in the republic, denying the rumors that the epidemiological situation has been exaggerated to stimulate the national vaccination campaign.
The disease is on the rise mainly among children, and we plan to vaccinate those over 18 years of age, Atabekov said. Earlier this month, Uzbekistan received the first batch of 660,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine through the COVAX program, as several European countries suspended the use of AstraZeneca, fearing that the registered cases of blood clots could be linked to the vaccination with AstraZeneca. Bahadur Yusupaliyev, Deputy Minister of Health of Uzbekistan, suggested waiting for investigation results. According to him, the vaccination campaign is to start in Uzbekistan after Nowruz. The European Union's medicines regulator has recently concluded that the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine is safe to use and not associated with the increase in the overall risk of thromboembolic events or blood clots.
Uzbekistan plans to adopt a new legislation policy aimed to introduce liability for interference in the activities of non-governmental, non-profit organizations. The draft law suggests that officials committing an unlawful offense will be fined from $160 to $230. In case of repeated violation, the fine may rise up to $340. Besides, the judicial authorities will draw up a report on the administrative offense and transfer it to the court. Previously, Uzbekistan did not establish responsibility for such violations.
Paralysed from the neck down after suffering a car crash at 19, Spaniard Rafael Botella, now 35, thought of ending his life. Although he has since changed his mind, Botella is relieved that Spain is about to legalise euthanasia and assisted suicide. Botella is far from giving up at the moment. Using his mouth and nose to work his computer, he has learned to mix music and plays live DJ sessions on Facebook. Cared for by his 75-year-old mother, he's also making a short film and writing a book on his experience. But he's confined to bed by agonising pain and wants the future option of assisted suicide.
I can cheer people up. I can have all the will in the world, but I don't know when all this is going to fall apart, or if it's not going to fall apart. So if it falls apart, as I always say, I want to have a bullet in the chamber in case I need it.
Spain's parliament is set to approve the new law in a final reading on Thursday, despite staunch opposition from the political right and religious groups. Botella considers that unacceptable interference.
If for some reason someone's tired of living, no one has the power to tell them, no, you will live because my voters or my ideology says the contrary, or just because I don't want to.
Almost 90% of Spaniards are in favour of decriminalisation, according to a 2019 opinion poll. But for now, helping someone end their life carries a jail term of up to 10 years.
Somalia has received its first consignment of vaccines under the COVAX Global Sharing Scheme, precisely a year after its first case of coronavirus was detected. 300,000 shots of AstraZeneca vaccines arrived in the Horn of Africa country on Monday. Minister of Health Dr. Fawzia Abikar Noor was at the Aden Abdoulaye International Airport in Mogadishu to receive them.
After tireless efforts, we've managed to receive the first batch of the vaccine, and we're expecting to receive more. I want to commend the efforts of health workers across Somalia for their efforts in saving lives. May God grant paradise to those who have died.
The first groups to be targeted for inoculation are frontline workers, the elderly, and people with chronic health conditions. But carrying out the government's planned mass vaccination drives will be challenging. Many areas of the country riven with conflict have lost basic infrastructure. Roads, bridges, telecoms and power often weakened or obliterated. Health workers risk death, injury or abduction to do their jobs. The UN has hailed the Somali authorities for their efforts to combat COVID-19 and pledged continuing support to the nationwide vaccination program.
Step by step, the UK is set to emerge from lockdown. Progress is being helped by one of the world's fastest vaccination rollouts. Now it looks like that might be doing something to help public finances too. Borrowing has piled up as Finance Minister Rishi Sunak pours money into stimulus measures.
I said I would do whatever it takes. I have done, and I will do so.
But figures out Friday show the budget deficit growing less than expected. In February, the country borrowed £19.1 billion, or about $26.6 billion. That is a record for the month, but a couple of billion less than economists had forecast. Unless there is a new surge in March, the annual figure should also now come in below expectations. Adding to the optimism were other numbers showing a leap in consumer confidence. This month's GfK index hit a one-year high, with people seemingly starting to believe a recovery will benefit them. Responding to Friday's borrowing numbers, Sunak said extra spending and tax cuts had been the right thing to do. But he says the focus will turn to fixing public finances. In his recent budget statement, the finance minister set out plans for spending cuts and tax rises as part of that process.
This is Europe's largest onshore wind project.
It consists of 277 separate wind turbines and is Europe's largest project of its type ever built.
The Fosen Wind Park is a collection of 6 wind farms located in Norway's coastal Trøndelag County. They produce enough energy to power 1 million homes. Norwegian state-owned hydropower company Statkraft holds a majority stake in the project and has been responsible for its development. Construction started in 2016 and required approximately 2.5 million man-hours to complete. David Flood is Statkraft's Senior Vice President of European Wind and Solar in Northwest Europe.
Completing the Fosen Wind project was extremely complex in terms of the technical challenges and the logistics. Firstly, the terrain is very mountainous and wasn't easily accessible. So there were several barriers to getting in and starting construction. And at the same time, of course, it's very important to take care that the impact on nature was kept to a minimum. The project was completed over 3 seasons each year, as a large part of the year, the Norwegian winter prevents certain work from taking place as well.
The company says the turbines are capable of producing a total of 3.6 terawatt-hours of renewable energy every year, cutting greenhouse gas emissions by approximately 1.9 million tonnes per annum. That's equivalent to taking some 862,000 petrol cars off the road.
So far, these were the latest news for today. Goodbye. Take care.